Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and I just want to say before we get started, two things. One, I hope you all had a very good Merry Christmas or a Happy Holiday, whatever you practice, I suppose is the word I want to say. And then also, this video will contain spoilers for Campaign 3 of Critical Role that are up to date. So if you aren't caught up, click off this video. It's not for you. If you want spoilers because you just want to know some things about Critical Role that is way ahead of you, then this video is for you. And if you're caught up, obviously, welcome. We can continue. So let's get on with it. With the spoiler warning out of the way, we can move on to the actual course of the video, which is, did Nana Morri's trials actually help the Bells Hells, reach a understanding with each other? Did they reconnect? Do they trust each other now? Are they going to be more honest moving forward? And there's two ways to look at this, and they're very simple. Yes, they have reconnected and they are well aware, and they're willing to listen to each other and be honest with each other. And the other side of it, no, they aren't. Which one is it? Well, for, I would say most of them, yes, they are now willing to communicate and talk to people and sort of deal with their issues as they go on. There are a bit of lies here and there still being thrown around. A good example is Chetney when he went to talk to Nana Morri, and he didn't tell the party exactly what it was that he got, but after just a little bit of pushing from FCG, it came clear that it wasn't a group thing. It was a very selfish deal that Chetney had made. He didn't tell them the context of the deal, but he did admit that it was a deal for himself and for no one else. It was his deal, and he was honest about it, because FCG said, I'm sure it's a good thing for the entire party what you did, but Chetney was nice enough to be honest and was willing to be honest and say, no, it was a selfish deal just for myself. So there is cases where they are now being more honest with each other, and they're being much more trusting of the things that they've done in the past. Chetney wouldn't have said anything. Chetney would have said, I didn't take a deal back in the day. Back in the day, it would have just been, yeah, we didn't make a deal. But now he is more honest in saying, I made a deal. I can't tell you what it is, but it's very selfish to myself. And then to sort of back that up even further, Laudna, who was completely shut off for a couple episodes there, is now much more honest about how they're feeling with Delilah, and how Delilah is pushing her to do things. And, she wanted to steal the shard during the whole Fern absorption moment, and she was able to hold it off, and she feels confident in the ability with others surrounding her that she will be able to hold it off. So there are instances where the characters are now more trusting of each other, and they're more capable to be honest with each other. Another example of trust is between Fern and Ashton, two characters who, after what Ashton did, Fern was very unhappy with Ashton, but they went on their own little adventure when they got their new Titan forms, and they started doing things on their own, just the two of them. And I feel like that is a good moment for the two of them to sort of bond and grow. So yes, I do think these trials did something and have pushed the party back together as a unit, but there is an exception to all of this. One big, glaring exception. Orym. On the last night of the Ligament Manor vacation, therapy session, whatever you want to call it, Orym snuck out of the room when everyone else was asleep and went and made a deal. He had told Chetney, along with everyone else, saying, I'm not going to make a deal. And then while everyone was sleeping, what does he do? Goes downstairs, finds Nana Morri, and makes a deal. One that involves great sacrifice for a great reward. That sacrifice being, he will be a servant, or will come and be a caretaker of Nana Morri after everything is done, if they're all able to come back from the moon alive and in one piece. Or as Nana Morri put it, as they are, because one character is already currently undead. So realistically, they can't come back alive. But the fact that he made this deal and didn't tell a soul about it signifies he doesn't have full confidence in the group yet to either succeed in what they're doing. And he's been honest about that part, that they all sort of feel like they're unprepared. That being said, I don't think he was terribly honest with the rest of the party about that. It was more so agreeance of what Fern was saying of how dangerous this could be. And then he made his opinion known to Nana Morri when he made a deal with her, that he doesn't think that they're ready.
What we're setting out to do, and I want to get them back. Fern, I want to get Fern back.
Of course.
And all of them. So, if you can somehow make me better at protecting them, or stronger. Strong's not the right word. More capable at what I do. I might agree to a lot.
Your passion is to protect your friends, yes?
My friends. Your granddaughter. I don't know if there's a friends and family discount, but...
And what do you have to offer, little Ashari?
Well, if I see them all through, and we get it done, I'll serve you.
Orm simply asks to be more capable and to be able to protect the group that he is with and make sure that everyone is able to come back from the sort of moon invasion that they're going on currently. This has led a handful of people to believe that he's going to start dipping into some different multi-classes as time goes on, because now he has some sort of entity sort of guiding him and helping him, and maybe this will push him down maybe a warlock side or something like that. Stuff like that would be interesting for Orm, but I think what I want to sort of look at today is the sort of story implications of this, because it could mean a few things. First and foremost, I've been doing some research into a different video for Orm, and while I was looking through that, I actually found a few clips of Alma, Orum's mother, telling him to not be a hero.
Crannies of the town that he could, and get lost often, and we had to retrieve him.
I have been pretty high up in the central tree here in town.
Oh, wow.
But he's a very good boy, and he's made his mother very proud, and many of us very proud.
I hope I keep that up.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Just, I'm just kind of reaches out and like taps your face. Just don't be a hero if you don't need to be. All right? Want to see you come back home safe.
Only do what's called for, Mom.
Of course.
Now this is interesting to me because we all know Orm to be that person. He is a person who will often put himself in risk's way or in harm's way to be the one to protect everyone else he's with. He would rather him get hurt, him get injured, him even die, as opposed to let everyone else suffer that sort of fate. This leads me to believe a few things. One, Orm doesn't think they're going to come back, or Orm is setting himself up to be the sacrifice play. Much like I think there are a few other people who would also make the same sacrifice play, Ashen, FCG, Ladna. The four of them have all sort of set themselves up to be a sacrifice play. But in this instance, Orm has asked for strength in return of being a servant after the deal is done. After everything is dealt with, Orm is asked to Orm will be a servant of Nanamori. But if he is the only one that doesn't come back, technically that would mean the deal was successful, and now he is gone, and there is no need to follow up with the rest of the deal. He won't be made into a skeleton in the garden. He won't be forced to do anything because technically he won't be brought back, or he won't be back on, Exandria, but everyone else will have been able to get back. Could this imply a sort of loophole that Orm didn't plan for because he says, I want to make sure everyone else gets back? Yes, Nanamori could theoretically bring him back from the dead and still make him a servant, but I think his plan as it stands right now is to be the sacrifice, is to be the person that if one of them have to stay behind and sort of die or sacrifice themselves to hold off enemy lines, Orm is going to be the one to volunteer first, and I think he's going to be the one to forcibly make everyone else go. Orm is a character who can do a ton of damage in a very short span. He can hit 6 times in a turn if he wants to, and he can hit 3 times on average if he wants to, because he is a monster. He has shown many, many, many times that he is willing to just unload on enemies if it has to come to that, and he can stand in the way of everyone else and make sure it happens. He can bait and switch people, get them the hell out of there. He can push people around, move people out of his way. He is very much the person who, out of everyone else, in my opinion, is the most capable of doing a sort of last stand moment, and I feel like Orm is setting himself up for that sort of situation right now, with this whole deal of making sure he's been given power or strength to make sure everyone else makes it, because Nanamori does say, if you need help, call me, which is an interesting little thing that she said there. So I'm curious what that means exactly. But it seems to me that Orm is making himself up to be the sacrifice. And I'm very interested in to see what happens with it for that reason. Because realistically, he's making the sacrifice with the knowledge that Alma would not be happy with it. He's making that sacrifice knowing that the rest of the party would not be happy with it. He's making that sacrifice much like he did back in the earlier parts of the campaign where he was ready to leave and go to the afterlife with Will, but then he was pulled back. Orm was ready in that moment when he died against Odahan Thule, and I would be willing to suggest he's been ready ever since then to join Will. Yes, he still has some fight left in him, but I get the feeling that Orm is the character out of everyone else who, if they had to go, would be the first and most willing to do it. Yes, Laudna has said that she's willing to go because that gets rid of Delilah. Yes, Ashton is willing to sort of sacrifice himself in many different ways to make sure everyone else is okay. Yes, FCG believes themselves, or used to believe themselves, to be the perfect sacrifice because they had no soul, even though we all know that's not true. Orm is the character who's lost the most and is now willing to give it all up because he knows that the rest of the things that will be left behind him will be more worth whatever he's going to be doing, in his opinion, not in my opinion. Orm is the character who, out of everyone else, has the least to return to after this is all said and done. Everyone else has something to return to. Orm is the character who has set himself up to be the one not to have anything to return to, especially if he's going to be in a life of servitude for a archfey. So I believe Orm has truly set himself up to be the sacrifice play, and I do think that'll be sad if that happens because, no one wants to see the character be sacrificed, but he has set himself up to a life of servitude after this is over. He has left himself nothing. He has left himself with just the idea that he's going to be a caretaker of a archfey who will never die. The rest of his life, which could be very long, will be left in her hands. And I don't know if that's something that Orm necessarily wants. I believe he's probably set himself up for a most true ever in Critical Role sacrifice play. In the end, I do believe that these trials help the rest of the Bell's House sort of come to the agreement that they're all taking time bombs, they need to be more trustworthy, and these trials have truly helped the rest of them. That being said, I think the one person of all this who this didn't help, the person who it didn't sort of connect with, the person who might have actually pushed further down the rabbit hole of potentially making this sacrifice is Orm. Do I think these trials were helpful? Yes, for most of the group. 1 out of 7, it didn't help Orm at all. Were these trials a very good success? I would say so. I'd say 6 out of 7 is a very good success rate, but Orm has now put himself in a bad position, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I also want to know what you guys think will happen from here. Do you think he's going to start multi-classing into something other than fighter? Do you think he's going to make a sacrifice play? Or do you think he's just going to accept the life of servitude after this is all done and will be happy to know that everyone else has made it back without having to make some sort of deal like this? Let me know in the comment section down below. And until Friday. See you guys on Friday for whatever video I make next. Peace.